All right, here we go. Hey Twitch, we are live with episode number 2 of Predict the Pros. I'm Joshua Hilton,
All right, here we
and
go.
we
Hey
are.
Twitch,
Add a little double sound. Oh yes, I am a professional at this. So I'm Joshua Hilton from Tracking the Pros. With me tonight is Kevin Kamiri, and we may or may not have Weldon on tonight. We'll see what happens if he rolls in. Weldon's hanging out in Finland, so he's would be just waking up right now at 5 a.m. Or actually, after the time change, it might even be 4 a.m. Oh man, I didn't even think about that. Oh, well, if he shows up, he shows up.
Yeah, but, not exactly the best time for him, but yeah, if he shows up, we'd be happy to have him.
Absolutely. All right, so let's. In fact, this might even be good, honestly, that Weldon's not here, so he can't give me that hard of a time. For our first topic, have a little pain assessment tool. I just want to talk through what I'm feeling about right now. You guys, it was a rough weekend, not gonna lie. A rough weekend. I mean, yeah, we started off in second. Could have had first. You did not get first.
It was a rough weekend for both the teams that were up at the top there. The entire NAL has been kind of flipped on its head, and yeah, Cloud9 unfortunately not kind of showing up right here at the end when it really matters. But they, like we were talking about before we kind of went on air here, at least they won the last game. They won that last tiebreaker game.
At least there was that. I mean, I was mentally preparing myself. I was like, it's been a bit of a slide. I need to be ready if we go from second to sixth.
Yeah, I really was not expecting this fall here at the end. I was expecting them to kind of do reasonably well and then maybe drop off in playoffs or something like that. But yeah, I really was not expecting this to happen. I did pick Liquid to beat Cloud9, but that wasn't because I thought Cloud9 was going to be horrible. I thought it was just because Liquid was going to be really good. I did not expect Cloud9 to kind of throw the game in the way they did. Their mid game has been really questionable in the past few games because they've been getting early leads every now and again.
Yeah.
And one lead, I forget which game exactly it was in, but they got which I'm trying to think back now. Which game was that? But they got a ridiculous lead, and the game should have been straight up over. Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say they got. I think Sven was or Sven Skaren, I guess to be more specific, was 4-0. I think at one point on Olaf, I think, and it's just the game. It should be over. It should be completely done. So yeah, that was kind of I feel like the first point where I was like, oh, this could be really not very good for C9 right now. I was a little worried before, but that made me extremely worried. They should have ended that game. And then we talked about this before, but Liquid's playing much better than before. They're picking a lot of easy, just hard CC comps where it's hey, if you get hit by one thing, there's going to be a ton of follow up. And I always talk about this. I say this to my students all the time. The easiest skill shots to hit are the ones where somebody's already CC'd. If they're in place, it's pretty easy to hit that skill shot. And I think Liquid's kind of taking that to heart. And I think that's partially why we saw Cloud9 not look as good. But I am definitely, like I said, I'm specifically worried about their mid game. Their early game seems to be not that bad. Every once in a while it's kind of messed up, but the mid game, their macro in particular, they're really not doing much with the leads mid game, and then when they're behind, they're really not doing much to kind of stabilize, as I always say mid game. If you get behind early, I always talk about trying to stabilize the game in mid to kind of just get things to calm down, and then you can try and come back later. Don't just immediately try and come back. Try and stabilize the game first and then come back. And I feel like it's difficult for Cloud9 to do that. I feel like in the kind of the moment when they need to calm things down, it starts getting crazy and people start getting caught out and Sven starts going really ham.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's out of character for Cloud9, I feel to have that kind of an issue.
Yeah, I feel like people just aren't on the same page. I feel like potentially one of the reasons behind that is because Licorice isn't exactly, I feel like, in his perfect meta right now. Yeah. He's playing a lot of tanks, which he's, from what I've seen, I'm not a top lane player by any means, but he seems to be pretty good in lane. It seems to be when it's just hey, it's you and you're a tank and you're versus another tank, it's okay. Licorice knows how to play, but when you have to get involved with the entire team, that's where I feel like he doesn't know how to play a tank around the team, and that's where we saw like if he's on like something like a Camille or a GP, he's often doing a little bit better. But put him on kind of these slower paced, more team oriented picks where you can't just kind of split push and create pressure yourself. You're having to play around the team. I feel like C9 doesn't really know how to kind of basically use what they have available to them. They have incredible players on their team, but I feel like they're not kind of clicking right now, which is the exact opposite of what you'd want. They kind of clicked at the beginning of the season, and now they're breaking apart, and it should be the other way around, kind of like more what TSM, Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, that kind of play where it's shaky because everyone's kind of finding their footing. But once they do, then you see the real potential of that team, and I'm a little worried for C9 in the current meta right now. But we'll have to see. Like I said, they beat Clutch, which to me is like that. If they didn't beat Clutch, I would be very, very worried. But since they beat Clutch, that's like the benchmark of, okay, you're a pretty good team. You're okay. You can compete. It's going to be okay.
You're in the top half at least. Yeah. It's something Wilden said last week. It's stabbing me every time I think about it mentally. But, impact. Of course, right as we hit playoffs, the meta shifts to Impact's perfect meta, and apparently, I think everything you said that feels right. I mean, it would be interesting if we could get more of an inside perspective, but it feels like he was a very extremely steadying hands, and doesn't matter what you put him on. He performed best on tanks, but like he always, regardless of how he did in lane, he was that team fighting presence that just made sure everything went smooth. And it's sorely missed. Impact.
His Ornn ultimates were really nice in the I believe in the C9 game. It was this week. Yeah, they've played so many games. Sorry, I'm looking back and I'm like, was that game last week? I'm like, no, because they played.
It's like a whole extra week.
Yeah, exactly. The extra tiebreaker and stuff like that. But yeah, his Ornn ultimates have been really great, which is not exactly like the hardest thing in the world to do. But hey, if you can just 100% of the time hit them properly, it's so perfect with the team comps that Liquid's playing, because it's just like, hey, land the slow, and everyone else is going to land their CC, and it's a guaranteed kill. And I'm really happy with the way that Liquid's been playing recently. So I think that Cloud9 is definitely not in the best spot, but I think that the teams that they were facing kind of made them look a little bit worse than they actually are. I don't want to say that. Like, basically what I'm saying is that I feel like Cloud9 is better than they showed. I feel like they were put in spots where they're playing against good teams, and they just did not play well in those games. So it's kind of like a double effect of this team's good and also Cloud9 played bad. So if they can kind of shore up some of those kind of shaky spots, I think they should be okay going into playoffs. I do actually have hope for them in the series versus Liquid. I think that it'll actually be a really close series.
Yeah, and so with that, my pain level is currently at a 6. It's severe. There's definitely a decent amount of pain. It's not over the top yet. I'm not non-functioning, but we'll see how it looks next weekend. Or next week when we talk again. So that's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, the nice thing though, the one not the one bit, but a little bit of kind of saving grace here for Cloud9 is if we look at the brackets, they're on the opposite side of TSM.
Yep.
Which is like
very key.
You've already won. You're already doing well. It's gonna be okay.
Yes.
So even though their path isn't exactly easy, it could be way harder. So as far as like Cloud9 getting to the finals, I think this is not bad. They got a decent shot, actually.
I mean, especially depending how they look against Liquid. I mean, obviously, but it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility that we come in and Cloud9 just 3-0 sweeps. Looks nice and clean.
You never know.
And playoff polish. That's what I'm looking for, boys. Playoff polish, please. Please, please, please.
We've seen stranger things happen.
Yes, absolutely. We definitely have. So, with that being done, let's take a quick look. The predictions that were done last week, I gotta say, pretty good. And congratulations, Mr. Streeple over there, for taking the top spot between the three of us. But we have to give a special shout out to totally not Putin, who managed to pull in a nice 75% accuracy. Pretty solid. And even more on top of that, he had, he had one game incorrect for Europe. One game. Like, it's not bad.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, considering there were some upsets and stuff as well in the recent week. That's not bad at all.
And the only game it missed was Splice and Vitality. So, I mean, that one I think that was our closest toss-up one, right? Or maybe.
I actually thought Vitality. I don't think they were going to win handily, but I was pretty sure that that Splice was going to win on that one. Splice actually really disappointed me last week.
Oh yeah, because they were on the upward trend, right?
I was gonna say yeah, exactly. They were on my upward trend, but yeah, I thought they were the second best team in EU, and I definitely cannot say that this week.
Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, assuming from their username, European base, so maybe we'll have to have some guest predictors on as the show goes forward. Let's see, is Totally Not Putin on? Unfortunately, not in chat right now. And so we actually have a question from chat that I feel like ties in pretty well to this. Do you guys use any scientific method to get this predictions, or just good luck? Well, in my case, it's not good luck. I basically could have coin flipped it and probably come out the same level. For me, it's definitely just kind of based on watching games. Kevin and Weldon probably have more insights, given that Kevin's a actual coach for a ton of league players, and Weldon is somehow related to some pro team. I think he did like a favor for TSM once. I don't know. Maybe watched Reggie's car or something.
Couple of those teams he's been around every once in a while doing something. I don't know what.
Yeah. Though it was interesting. If you want to go back and watch the first episode, Weldon for a lot of his predictions came from the viewpoint of sports psychology. So he made the call of Team Liquid beating Cloud9 because Impact was going to be all pumped up and ready to take it down his former team. I might have to increase my pain level by one or so.
I think he also called the. I'm not sure if I forget exactly if he predicted Splice or Vitality, but I think he called the Vitality win as well because he was talking about how Yamato Cannon would want to get back his old team or something. He called a couple of them based off of the whole sports psychology angle, so it was actually kind of cool.
Well, here you go. Let's see. So let's go on to the next slide, and I've got all of our different predictions. So Kevin got 70%, Weldon got 65%, and I got 55%. So, and I kind of lined them up there so you can kind of see, what everybody. So everybody got both the Cloud9 and the Counterlogic game wrong. Then plus and we all missed the Splice and Vitality one, and we all missed the Schalke and H2K. I mean, H2K definitely came back and looking pretty decent.
Yeah, I was pretty salty about that pick because I was like, I'm pretty sure H2K is actually the better team. I just have a feeling that Schalke is going to win for whatever, or Schalke. We learned last week how to pronounce it, and I've already forgotten.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Where's our European?
The team with the 04 at the end of their name, those guys, the FC team. But yeah, for whatever reason, I just thought that Schalke was going to win that game. I really have no actual evidence behind that, but I just thought they were. But I thought that H2K was the better team, so I'm really upset about that I kind of picked against my head, and I went with my heart for some reason.
Oh well, I mean, you see what your heart gets you. It gets you 55%. Yeah. And the other pick I want to bring up is the Counterlogic Gaming versus TSM pick. That I, after seeing Counterlogic Gaming's first game of the week, I immediately regretted. Yep. And it was like, there's just 0% chance they're going to beat TSM now after seeing them play. I think it was Optic that they lost against. And as you can see, I think all three of us there predicted that that CLG was going to beat Optic, and CLG just really kind of collapsed there at the end. I mean, they didn't get completely horribly stomped or anything by TSM, but it definitely was not the CLG I was expecting to show up. Yep.
And that's the case with CLG. Whenever I believe in them, they're not going to do well. Give up hope, and they'll go first in the league. It's ridiculous, but yeah. So I think that CLG really kind of hindered, I think, a lot of us last week there in our picks.
Just happy I didn't risk any money on that. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to do these predictions and stuff like that, but I would never risk any money on any of my picks. I have very little faith in my actual prediction ability.
Yep. Please, guys, if you're watching and you're wanting to make some bets, we're probably not the best people. This is a show for fun. But if you do happen to win thousands of dollars, send a little my way.
I was gonna say, I mean, statistically, 70% is not bad, you know.
That's true.
But this is a very small sample size, so don't take that to heart.
Sample size of 20 or 1.
This will not happen every week. The 70% will not stay. Trust me.
Well, especially now that we're dropping games, unless we want to actually predict, 3-1, 3-2. 3-0.
That's where it gets tricky, right? Where you can predict the right team but still be wrong.
Yeah. So, but I mean, overall, technically anything over 50%, you're doing better than a coin flip. And I mean, you in situations like this, you really should be doing better than a coin flip, just because you do get to see the history and everything. But I think it was pretty good, and totally not Putin showed us all up too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And just to go back to the previous question, I believe from Chad, just to kind of go into a slightly bit more detail about how I make my picks and stuff like that. A lot of what because I keep talking about upward trends and stuff like that. A lot of what I decide is based off of how they've been playing recently. Mm-hmm. And especially in seasons like this, that's been working out pretty well, because teams like C9, teams like Echo Fox, if you just look at the standings and you're like, well, this team's won more than this team, they should probably win. I like to go back and look at what their previous matches have been, kind of how their play styles kind of match up together. Like if one team's really good at this one thing, but this other team's really good at this one thing, that's partially what happened. I feel like in the Vitality Splyce matchup is Vitality did a great job at abusing Splyce in the mid and late game, because Vitality has a really awkward style of being super annoying and kind of attacking multiple things at the same time and drawing pressure off. And I feel like Splyce didn't do a very good job of trying to kind of alleviate that pressure. Their only real answer was just trying to take Baron and stuff like that. So you can kind of see where teams like Splyce, if it's just a standard game, Splyce is usually the better team. But if you get involved with this kind of chaotic, split pushy back and forth style, a team like Vitality is probably going to be better in those scenarios. So it's one of those things where looking back on it now, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? I probably should have given more weight to Vitality there. But me, of course, looking at Splyce going, oh, they've been winning a bunch of games. The games they have been winning have been going well, but they weren't playing teams like Vitality. They were playing teams where they can play just a safe, standard macro style and pull out the win against those teams. So you really have to take a lot into these picks, and really at the end of the day, there's so many times I'll be looking at them and going, I don't trust. I've looked at this for a long time. I've looked up a bunch of stats. I still don't trust all of the research I've done on this. So really, at the end of the day, a decent portion of it is just gut feeling. It's just I feel like they're gonna win, and that's legitimately last week with the Team Liquid pick over Cloud9. A huge portion of that was just me going, I feel like Team Liquid's gonna get good. I just feel like they're gonna be good. I don't know why. I just think so.
I mean, especially talking about that. I mean, Doublelift. He definitely, with his 4-part tweet or something, kind of going into more details about that. It definitely resonated a bit, saying or showing, kind of the progress that they had made. And I mean, it definitely felt like, it's not his usual trash talky self. So it seemed like an actual insight. So,
but it's so scary though, because when players do say stuff like that, you're like, I've seen that before. They might just be saying that. It's so hard to actually trust them, because everyone's like, yeah, no, our scrims went really good this week. We're going to show it on stage, and then it's 0-2, and you're just like, oh, what the? Yeah. But yeah, I actually trusted him with that. I feel like that it kind of made sense. I feel like Team Liquid, and we'll talk about them a little bit more in a second, but I feel like they were trying too hard to be a Worlds caliber team and not hard enough to just be an NA caliber team. Just win your region. Don't worry about trying to win Worlds just yet. Just be good now, and we'll figure that stuff out when we get there, kind of thing. And I think that's one of the issues that you see sometimes with these kind of these upper echelon organizations like the TSM and potentially even CLGs and stuff like that, C9s maybe. They're kind of looking ahead to well, when we get to Worlds, are we going to be able to win with this style, or is this only going to win us NA? Which I kind of feel like Fnatic almost plays that style of like, we're just going to crush our region, and then we get on the world stage, it's all going to fall apart. So it's kind of that balance, and I'm kind of glad that Team Liquid has gone back to that simpler style. With my coaching style, I'm all about keeping it as simple as possible. Like, if you can't execute the higher end strategies perfectly, then don't attempt to. I mean, obviously that's you can't just not do that when you get to the highest level. But let's just get to the highest level first. Let's make worlds, and then we can worry about trying to figure out how we can actually win worlds.
Yep.
At least in my mind.
And quick question from chat. Mr. Knifey wants to know, what's your in-game rank?
Oh, me? I'm actually unranked this season. I finished Plat 1 last season. I've never made it to Diamond. I've failed my Plat 1 promos, I think 5 times now. So I'm hard stuck Plat, and that's probably where I'll be for the rest of the time.
I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Every time I get into a promo, I never win the first try. Between actual tiers, and I think my record was 5 times before I actually got. And I mean, I always end up in gold. I was in Plat 5 one season, I think, and then somehow got dropped back down because of inactive or something. Like, I forgot to play one game. It was right at the end of the season, so off topic, but little salty.
That's oftentimes what happens with my seasons. Is I play games, then I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna decay. Play one game. Oh no, I'm gonna decay. Play another game. Like, I don't play ranked that much. I'm pretty slacking when it comes to that type of stuff.
Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the predictions. And so this will do a quick little plug again. You guys who are watching, if you want to make your own predictions and get ranked and see how you compare and stack up to us, you can go to trackingthepros.com/predict. Make a free account there, and then say who you think is going to win the upcoming games. So, screenshot here. It shows my picks. Pretty straightforward, I think, other than Cloud9. I mean, run through them real quick. Splyce and Roccat, I think... in fact, I think if I remember correctly, you have the same picks as me, except for you have Team Liquid winning, right?
Yep.
So
exactly. So we can. Why don't we get into what we? We're not going to actually put down what we think the score is going to be, but we can talk about it to see, because of course we do have 3 out of the 4 the same picks, so we can kind of debate on that at least.
That works.
But yeah. So how do you think that the Splyce Roccat game's going to go, or Roccat, or whatever you want to pronounce it?
That's a good question.
Or a series, excuse me.
I feel like it's going to be closer than the TSM Clutch Gaming.
I think every series is going to be closer than TSM Clutch Gaming.
A little bit of a cop out, but let's see. Well, okay, how? It's probably only going to be a 3-1. I feel like Roccat might be able to take a game off. I don't see them giving Splyce a lot of trouble unless they take a page out of Vitality's playbook and start going kind of trying to throw the map into a little bit of chaos.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the tricky thing with Roccat is Rockat's such a question mark for me. They've shown really good play and then really horrible play, but I feel like a lot of that rides on the back of Memento, their jungler. So I feel like if they do take a game, because I actually have the 3-1 predicted as well. If they do take a game, I think it's going to be off of like Memento just crushing early game, and Splyce just can't ever recover from that. But I don't even know if that's actually going to happen. I could actually see it being 3-0. I'm really not sure. When I first started looking at this, I was like, oh man, Roccat might win. It might be a 3-2. And the more I thought about it, the more I looked into it, the more I'm like, no, I feel like Splyce is just going to take this. I feel like Splyce is the more consistent team, and I feel like that oftentimes is what you need to win best of 5s.
Yep, very much in best of 5s, because like, as you're saying, Memento could definitely pop off for a game. And then whatever champion he was on, they'll ban him, force him into something different, and maybe even play more defensive or aggressively attack his jungle. And you think Rockat's going to be able to respond well and adapt well if that happens?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Probably not.
I think Rockhat's best bet is just to basically coin flip a bunch of times, just like go ham and just hope that it turns up heads. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because I feel like if they just go like 50-50 over and over again, they could luck out and come out ahead because they have some reasonably talented players.
Mm-hmm.
But every once in a while you see stuff like, I forget which game it was in, but like blank on the Anivia with the wall during the fight to like single-handedly lose them the game. And like Norscarin like just straight inted in one team fight, like he just flashed back in to die as Braum one time, and it's just like every once in a while they do stuff where it's like what are we doing, guys? What are we trying to do here? But then you see stuff that they can do right, and you're like, whoa, this team's really good, and then they disappoint you immediately after. So even though Splice disappointed me a bit last week, I wasn't as disappointed as I potentially could be with Roccat, so I trust Splice more.
Yeah, and I mean, and you always have to respect those kinds of plays. I mean, honestly, that's one of the biggest reasons that I fell in love with Cloud9 when they came into LCS, because especially like when they went to Worlds and everything and play on the world stage, like they're not a team with, back then especially, they were not a team to just, sit there and let the other teams slowly grind them into dust. The Korean playstyle, especially back then, was like, we're just going to envelop you and slowly push you into your base. You're not going to get anything. They're just going to grind you down to dust. No, Hai's going to just like run off and try and backdoor. So
yeah.
Awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it looks like Weldon.
Yeah.
Oh, it's popping up in the stream too. That's kind of cool. Awesome. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry. I don't even remember what I was saying now.
Oh, my bad.
But yeah, we can. I'm good on Splice or Roccat personally, or we can hang out and wait for Weldon for these EU.
Well, we can. We can go ahead and talk through our picks, and then when Weldon gets in,
sure,
we can run through his. All right, so
sounds good.
Then Vitality, H2K. I mean, if we want to talk about momentum, H2K is not looking too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, neither of us think that's going to be good enough for taking an upset over Vitality.
I think they could. This is actually my toughest pick.
Really?
I really think H2K very well could win this series. I wouldn't put it past them. I'm just very worried that. Well, here's the thing. Here's my kind of when I'm thinking about how these games are going to play out. I feel like H2K oftentimes falls behind early, but their late game is really good. And Vitality often gets ahead early, but doesn't close games out. So I'm actually kind of expecting Vitality to like win the majority of the game, and then H2K just like drags it late and they pull out like some late game team fight or some Baron steal or some weird stuff like that. I could very easily see H2K pulling out a couple games, if not the win and getting the third one there for that. I'm just really nervous about Vitality's ability to prevent the game from getting to where H2K is strong. I feel like H2K can just draft late game team comps and just kind of just like stall and just hope for the best. And eventually I think they should get to a point where they can try and make a comeback. Because I feel like Vitality has trouble actually closing the games. And I think that's going to be potentially an issue. I did pick Vitality, though. I have them winning 3-2. But I'm not 100% confident in that pick.
Interesting. Okay. I don't know about. I just don't feel like H2K is going to be able to give them that big of a run.
It's entirely possible Vitality just 3-0s them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like basically, a lot of what I'm saying is like H2K often falls behind early, and Vitality usually can't close out games. If they can close the games out, then H2K has no shot. Mm-hmm. So Vitality definitely has a path to victory. I just don't trust Vitality. They're another team kind of like Roccat. They're super up and down, except they're just better, I feel. So I have more faith in them, but I don't have enough faith in them to be extremely confident in this pick. I still picked them, but I'm not extremely confident.
Gotcha. Okay. I would go, if I had to pick, I'd probably do another 3-on-1.
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure.
Yeah. Alright, so Liquid and Cloud9. I understand, and I will freely admit that, especially this past week, it's very obvious that Liquid was the better team. They looked like the better team. obviously played like it. This is definitely a hard pick, and also to give me a winning week over you, potentially. Yeah, I mean, I guess it all comes down to, do we have playoff C9 show up, or do we have meme C9 show up?
Yeah, end of regular season C9
yeah.
is not looking too hot. But yeah, usual playoff C9 is not too bad. But yeah, I think that Cloud9 is going to show up more in the playoffs than they did in the tiebreaker in the end of the season. I think that they have a week to practice now, which obviously isn't much time, but I feel like they have a better handle on the meta right now. And like I said, I trust the coaching staff of C9. I feel like Reaper is pretty good in picking bans, and I feel like that's going to mean a lot in these best of fives. So I feel like Cloud9 will have a better showing against Liquid than they did in the previous games they played against them. But I still have Liquid winning this series. I think it's going to be really, really close. I think it's going to be just like razor close games. Maybe there'll be like one game apiece that they'll just like be a stomp or something like that. But I feel like it'll be really close games. I feel like it's going to be 3-2 for Liquid. I just have to go with Liquid because I picked them last week and they didn't prove me wrong. They beat C9 a couple times last week. I feel like just simply based off of numbers, Team Liquid is the correct pick. But then I also feel like Team Liquid, like I was saying before, I feel like they're doing a really good job of just keeping things simple right now. They're just picking simple CC train stuff, double lift, just put them on Jhin. Like, it's just keep it simple, play around double lift, don't do anything crazy. You guys are better players than most of your opponents. Just play safe and smart. Like, don't do anything crazy. Just CC someone, train that CC, go grab an objective. Go back to base, push out some minion waves, do it all over again. Just rinse and repeat. Because Liquid's been looking great in their mid-game play in terms of, like I said, just CC train. So I think they can do that with Cloud9, who has been really shaky in their mid-game play. So I think that Liquid's kind of strength right now is exactly where Cloud9's weak point is. So I think that could be an exploitable issue.
The way you put it like that, it's...
But like I said, you never know. C9, they're a team that has consistently been good. Cloud9 has never been a bad team ever. I don't think pretty much ever. Maybe like the very beginning, back in like 20, like before they made their entrance into NA and stuff like that. But they've always been a solid team. Like, they've either been like the best team or pretty darn good. So I expect them to just have kind of like the kind of leadership on that team, the coaching staff around them, the fact that these guys have just played like Jensen and Sneaky, and Smoothie's become like a huge veteran now as well, and Sven's been around forever. Impact, a world champion, like, they have the roster that's like, hey guys, we've been here before, we can pull this off, this isn't a big deal. So I do actually have a decent amount of faith in Cloud9. I just have a little bit more faith in Liquid right now. Yeah,
I absolutely think it's going to be a 3-2. I think they're going to basically go game, and then the fifth be for the winning one. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, if they were going to have to lose, and lose to Optic, you know what? And especially since it didn't knock them out of the playoffs, go ahead and have it the last week. Treat this as the wake-up call. Yeah, Reaper wasn't going easy on them. If they had a good week of practice, if they get the right mindset, yeah, I think they need to do it. And actually, so thinking about the mindset, I remember something from the beginning of the season where I think it was Jack was talking about the team, and someone had asked him, like, how Cloud9 always does. Not amazing, but definitely represents themselves well at Worlds. Yeah. And he says partly because that they just come into the mindset of, okay, now they're at Worlds, and it's like super try hard, like setting everything aside. It's like, we're representing NA, we're playing against the best in the world. This isn't, just hanging out back in North America where, whatever happens, we'll get top 3. But they kind of, after Worlds last year, they got together and kind of were talking as a team of, what, we really should apply that attitude to regular season and even spring split, where it doesn't matter nearly as much. And it felt like they really did, especially the first half. And they just got
the first half.
And then they started getting complacent. I think it was just a combination of things. Like, they started getting complacent, the meta changed. Teams started getting used to Licorice because, I mean, right? He's a true rookie to the LCS, I think.
I believe so, yeah.
And so, I mean, like, he definitely had a bit of an advantage where there wasn't, a whole lot of material for people to be able to go back and research. And once teams started playing against them, figuring out different things, so you lost a little bit of that advantage. But I feel like if they're going to fix things, now's the time to do it. And if they get that mentality back, then I think they'll be able to do it. So.
Yeah, I think Cloud9 is a quality organization, and I like I keep saying, I have faith in them to turn things around. I don't feel like they're a team that'll just completely implode on themselves. Yeah. I feel like they're going to have a decent showing to finish off the season. I feel like it's kind of the same thing with the Clutch game. Like they're like, we're not going to end the season like that. We'll have something to show for it at the end, kind of thing.
Right. And then very probably short discussion. TSM versus Port Clutch Gaming. I mean, this is probably the most likely 3-0 out of the four. I mean,
the TSM versus Clutch game, like Bjergsen at level 2, it just shoved in the wave in mid and invaded the jungle and just started beating up Lyra while he was trying to take his buff at level 2. Like Bjergsen's just winning the game, and Mike Young's like, oh well, thank you for winning my jungle for me. Now I'm gonna get a lead, and then I'll come back and I'll give that lead right back to you. And it's just like the game was over at level 2 basically. Like Bjergsen, like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. That's why I keep bringing this. I'm like, I'm gonna bring it up again and again. He walked into their jungle at level 2 and just started attacking Lyra on Sejuani, just throwing Syndra balls at him, and it's like, is no one gonna stop this? Is no one gonna? And that's one of the things that I've really been looking at, because Febiven for me has been one of those players that I've for a few weeks now been thinking, like, is this guy the MVP? Like he plays so consistently well, and that's the thing I was looking for is in my MVP choices, like consistency. Like I want someone who's just always good. You don't need to be incredible, just always be good. And I was like, Febiven might be that guy. And then I started watching him play more and more, and I'm like, no, this guy's not the MVP. He just kind of plays very safe and like smart, but it's not really smart. It's like my style of play, where it's like, yeah, this is great if your opponent isn't really good. But once your opponent is really good, it's a garbage style. And I'm the first one to admit that my play style is very like, let's just chill. Febiven has the most time spent on his side of the lane out of any mid laner in the NALCS. So he basically just clings to his turret.
Oh, that's right.
And that's why he never dies. But he also has really good CS numbers as well. And what he does is he does exactly what I do, is because you're stuck under your turret, your opponent is like, well, I can't kill this guy, so I'm going to shove the wave in, and then I'm going to roam. I'm going to roam or invade the jungle or whatever it is.
Yep.
And his counterplay to that is not to roam, but to push the wave back, which is what I usually like to do, because there's no involvement. I always say I picked the PvE option instead of the PvP option. I'm like, minions and turrets can't outplay me. Players can outplay me. I can screw up against players. But minions and turrets, I can't. So he lets the guy roam and just shoves the wave then and gets damage on the turret. So he's got good CS numbers, good damage to the turret. But against a good team that's actually accomplishing things when they have that mid priority and the roam, like TSM's doing with Bjergsen, it completely falls apart, and that style does not work. So that's one of the huge reasons I really feel like I've been constantly thinking to myself, like, why is Clutch so good at beating teams that are bad, but terrible at beating teams that are good? And I really feel like this is a huge reason, is Febiven's play style is very much like, okay, well, I'm just going to let you do what you want, and then I'm going to push once you go leave to do something. So if they don't accomplish anything, it works out great. It's really good. But if they do accomplish something, it's complete garbage. And I feel like TSM is going to abuse that so hard, like we saw in the game before. I think this is an easy 3-0. If Clutch takes a game, I will be very, very impressed.
Interesting. Yeah, I gotta say, man, that's LCS level.
I spend a lot of time on this. This is like my little jewel that I've been polishing. I was like, I can't because I've been watching Febiven a lot, because I'm really having a hard time. I'm like, I want to give him MVP, but I don't. Why don't I want to give him this? And then I did more research, and it's like, there's a reason why you don't want to give it to him. But yeah, so I think TSM just crushes them. TSM is looking so good right now. TSM is they're so good. Bjergsen is playing out of his mind right now. Like we all know that Bjergsen's really good and his level of play is really high, but he's doing stuff where it's just like, oh, the game's over. Like Bjergsen's in the game's over, and that's kind of why Bjergsen has been like anytime anybody is like, hey, if you're going to build a team, what player are you going to build it around? Well, Bjergsen. Why would you select anybody else? And I think right now he's kind of proving that. Unfortunately for him, in the whole MVP debate, I feel like it's a little too late that he turned it on. Yeah. So it's kind of, again, hard for me to be like, well, look, if it was half of a season, it's just the second half of the season, Bjergsen, hand it to him, give it to him, please. But yeah, and actually, no, you know what? Sorry, I take that back. I'm talking ahead of myself here, because 100 Thieves have been playing ridiculously well second half of the season, and it'd be hard not to have those guys in the mix there. You couldn't just straight hand it to Bjergsen. You'd have to talk about Aframu. You'd have to even talk about maybe even Medios, to be honest. Medios has been a sleeper this season. He's been playing incredibly well, and everyone thought he was done and washed up, and he's not doing anything. And like, if you look at his numbers, you look at his 23. Play. Yeah, he's consistent, and that's what, like I said before, I'm all about consistency. I want someone who every game, no matter how good or bad the game is going, we're always going to be doing okay at least. Yep. And yeah.
And I just want to go back and just like emphasize like that because you just did such a good job of summing up the situation and just making it so clear. And it's like, as soon as you explain it, like, yeah, because good teams, especially good mid laner who sees that and is confident in their play to then take and go apply pressure elsewhere, does that, and that's what gives their enemy the win. If you don't have a mid laner who's confident enough to do that, or maybe even the rest of the enemy's team isn't doing well enough that they could apply a good pressure elsewhere, then that's why it doesn't really matter if Febiven does that. So
it actually works out great. Actually, it works out really well. It's a great strategy if your opponent doesn't punish it, because then you're always ahead in CS. You oftentimes get first turret. Like I said, that's my play style. When I play mid, that's what I do. I'm just like, I don't want to die to the jungler. I'm just going to wait for ganks. I'm going to wait for him to screw up. I'm going to wait for something bad to happen, and then I'll just push, take free CS, take free turret, whatever I need, all that kind of stuff, with no actual chance for outplay. Because if I follow, I'm probably going to do something stupid. He's probably going to do something well, and then I'm down one kill, he's up a kill, and I could have just had free CS. So I think Febiven gets away with that a lot, but when you're starting to get down to playing against only the really good teams here, it's going to be very punishable.
Yeah. Well, Weldon has just joined us. Weldon, I don't know if you caught the last 10-15 minutes, but Kevin just dropped this crazy insights into Febiven and Clutch Gaming, which I blew my mind because it's like so simple and straightforward. But I was like, didn't realize it, but as soon as he explained it, it was like, wow, there you go.
Fantastic. So you're predicting them to take TSM down?
Oh yeah, definitely 3-0, easy peasy. It's gonna be a stomp. Yeah, no, we were talking about how the tiebreaker game between TSM and Clutch, Bjergsen just shoved mid-level 2 and just started fighting Lyra in the jungle by himself. And just like pretty much that alone was like, oh, well, the game's probably over at this point, because Mike Young he can do whatever he wants at that point in the game, because Lyra's just shoved out. What can you do? And Febiven's just chilling under his turret, which is kind of what we were talking about, how Febiven plays that kind of safe style of like lets the other mid laner kind of do what they want. And if it's a good player like Bjergsen, they're going to get a lot accomplished.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Helps to have really good players.
So, Mr. Weldon Green, let's hear your predictions. Who do you predict?
All right.
The upcoming quarterfinals?
Let me pull up your slides.
Or you can go into the site, because I see that you have not set your predictions yet for the upcoming.
Oh yeah, I can also go into the site.
That is trackingthepros.com/predict. Might have some new listeners.
Trackingthepros.com/predict. All right. So, predicting the winners. Oh wait, I need to register. I need to log in. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, you do have your account. Which we also mentioned a little bit. You came in second. Kevin got 70% last week. You got 65%. And I pulled in a nice 55%.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right. All right. So Splice versus Rocket. Splice, because they beat G2, and I don't want them to suck. Even though I think they're pretty good at choking, I just hope that they don't suck. Rocket, I think, is not that great. I think everybody else is just worse, so that's why they're in playoffs. All right, Vitality versus H2K. I really think Vitality is going to win, but I'm going to call a quote-unquote upset.
Ooh.
Just as like a way of gambling, because
Yep.
I think that H2K might have a little bit of momentum. I think Vitality might have a little bit of chokiness. And I don't know if Yamato Cannon is preparing them for the onstage choke. This is a best of 3, though. Dang. I got to switch that.
Is
I
it
don't
best
think
of 3 or best of 5?
It's best of 3.
Best of 5. Sorry, it's best of
okay.
5. Yeah. What I meant is they have to. H2K has to beat them 3 times.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm still gonna go with H2K. All right, Cloud9 versus Team Liquid. Oh. Dang. You know what? I'm going with Team Liquid. I'm really sorry.
No,
Josh, but
it's fine. It's fine.
I think that Cloud9 has a player that has never played in a finals before, or like in a playoffs before, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that. Yeah, I think that when you have a new player who has is an unknown in terms of champion pool, and in a best of 5 series, and also hasn't played on a high stakes match before, it's a pretty high liability. And I think that Team Liquid would be smart to try to abuse that strongly. I think that they should focus almost all of their efforts on top lane, to be honest, both in terms of champion pool, matchup, and what they play towards. Now the meta favors bot lane focus, so that'll be pretty sketch. But it really depends on the problem is that Sneaky is super good at absorbing pressure and Doublelift is not. So if C9 plays toward bot lane really hard and really successfully, then of course it'll make more of an impact than Team Liquid playing towards top. But I don't know if C9 has the I want to say the gumption to play towards bot the way that, say, I was going to say a Team Liquid would, because they're the historic team that crushed 5-man dives bot lane, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I struggle to see a world where C9 is able to punish Doublelift hard enough to represent the difference. If Doublelift plays super smart, which in best of series he usually plays super smart, and he's been exposed on stage multiple times recently, in terms of getting not only losing lane but also just getting focused. So I'm hoping that he's learning from that and that he'll pick it up. And for TSM Clutch Gaming, obviously I'm picking TSM because that's what I do. I just pick TSM and roll with it, and there we go. Update my picks.
Such a risky pick, man. I don't even know why you would do that. But yeah, I mean, I fully admit that if I took the emotional connection out, I would probably pick Team Liquid. I was complaining earlier about your comment from last week. It's just stuck with me about missing impact from Cloud9, because especially after the meta change for top lane, going to tanks, it's just like, why, Steve? But yeah,
he's such a solid player. It's like it wasn't like sometimes he would pop off and win games, but you didn't need him to, because other times he'd just be fine. He'd just be solid.
Yep.
So it's nice to not have a vulnerability Like,
yeah,
that's the
especially in series games. So like in a best of 5, like I mean, if someone exposes you, especially early in the series, then what are they going to do? They're going to do the exact same thing. They're going to keep pounding after that. So, but yeah, okay. All right, so not as many predictions as the marathon 20 games last week.
yeah.
But we all have some. We all have one different pick. So there will be a winner, and then there will be losers.
Good. We'll know who's the better predictor.
Oh well, I mean, I think we found out it's Kevin, right?
Obviously.
A small sample size.
Small sample size, yes. But
yes. He won by one prediction, right?
I mean, isn't that enough, Weldon?
Yeah, that's true.
And so we had one person.
Oh, he won because he predicted Team Rocket to beat Misfits, and I predicted Misfits to beat Team Rocket. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Then we also had one person who got 75%. Totally Not Putin was the username, and they actually went 9 for 10 in EU. They only messed up the Splice and Vitality game, which we all kind of agreed was definitely a pretty surprising result.
I'm trying to show this thing on my stream so that I can show off my predictions. There we go. All right. Ta-da! There you go, fans.
Well, and there's also people, if you don't want to necessarily make predictions, but you want to go back and see everybody's predictions, you can still go to that same website, trackingthepros.com/predict, and you can click on people's names, and it'll show their historical picks. Plus, if they have any upcoming picks, you can see those there as well. All right, so quarterfinal picks locked in. Start off with kind of an easy general question. Did Week 9 change who you think is going to win the Spring Championship?
Yeah, it did, because
really?
I just had it in the bag for TSM before, and then I think that Clutch Gaming came out and scared me, and I want to say that 100 Thieves also got way scarier, and
yes.
Echo Fox continued to do what I expected them to do, which is decline in standings, but not really affect my opinion of how they're going to play in the best ofs, because obviously they subbed in players. So, we can't really take anything at all from the results, of their games. So, yeah. It didn't change my obviously my public assumption of who's going to win the split, because I predict the teams that I work with, because it's pretty rude to do anything else. But it did change my fears about the possibility of that happening. That's for sure.
Yeah, I still think that TSM is going to win NA and Fnatic's going to win EU, but I'm definitely more excited about watching the playoffs now, based off of what we saw in the last week here. I think exactly like Weldon was saying, 100 Thieves looks actually pretty good. I'm a huge fan of 100 Thieves, but I've been still doubting them kind of this entire time, going they look really good, but I don't know, they're probably going to screw up, something's going to go wrong. But it's no, they've continued to impress. So I'm actually pretty excited to see how those teams are going to shake out. Team Liquid's been doing a little bit better. Cloud9's been a bit on the decline, but the last game against Clutch was okay, they're not terrible. Maybe we can see what's going on here. So I still think the same teams are going to win, but I'm much more excited to see how that's going to occur now than I was a week before.
Okay. And those feelings make sense because you've been a CLG fan for a while, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's yeah. That's I like to be disappointed.
Yep. And ironically for me, this actually did change me, because now I'm feeling forced to admit that probably TSM is going to win. Before this week, I was Cloud9, especially, they're going to come into this last week, they're going to finish strong, we're going to be looking good. Did not happen. I'm still holding out hope. I want them to win, but yes, I think I've shifted to the majority opinion now that it's going to be Fnatic and TSM.
They just both look so strong right now. TSM just looks incredible right now. I'm really excited to see them play more games.
Yes. So that leads into the next question very nicely. I went back and looked at the past couple of seasons, and so I got the win difference, or the difference in number of wins between number 1 team and the number 6 team for North America. So here in 2018 spring, there was a difference of 1 game between number 1 and number 6. 2017, difference of 6. 2017 spring, difference of 6. 2016 summer was difference of 9. I think that was one of...
that was me mostly.
Oh, was that TSM that went 17-1?
Yeah. That was when I came in.
So, I mean, Immortals went 17-1, I think, as well. In one of
in the spring, and then I knocked them out of playoffs. Yeah, I remember that.
A little bit closer. So, my question to you guys is this indicative of teams being a lot better and more teams being a lot better? Or is this just all the teams are kind of mediocre?
No, it's the inability to assess properly the skill level of the team. Like there was a differentiate. The difference is the same between the top and the bottom, but the reporting of the difference is more mediocre.
Because of the
best of one versus best of 3, yeah. So the actual difference in skill level between the top team and the bottom teams is the same. If you look at scrimmages, pretty sure you would see that there are like just 3 or 4 teams that just do not scrim the other teams at all because they're just so bad. It's just a waste of time to scrim them. This has been the case for years, and I don't think that has changed. I don't know because I haven't been to a lot of scrimmages, but I would say that it's more the reporting that, like the accuracy of how it is that we're able to differentiate between the top of the table and the bottom of the table, because a best of 1 doesn't do that. A best of 1 is like basically a way to test, one strategy and to do like an exhibition showcase game for the fans. But I think that now scrimmages are actually a more accurate representation of team skill level in how they're going to perform on stage for the playoffs than their performance in the actual like on stage matches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that absolutely, because you look at the standings and you're like, oh well, there's like everyone's so close together, these teams must be exactly the same. That's really not the case. I mean, like we talked about in our predictions and stuff, like Clutch Gaming is, I mean, I'm sure the numbers are kind of awkward right now because of the tiebreakers, but Clutch Gaming's 11-9 and TSM is 13-7. It's like, oh, they're pretty close, but it's like those teams are not close together. It's yeah. So I think that. I think that overall, I think that there's reasonably competitive teams in NA, but I think that, like Weldon was saying, it's kind of like misleading based on what we've been seeing. And yeah, the best of 3s. I really think it's going to be a different kind of game. Obviously, the teams that are doing well right now are probably still going to continue to do well into these best of 5s and stuff now. But I definitely think it will show kind of the differences in teams more kind of vividly once we can actually see them in a series together. And of course, Sorry.
You know what would be a fun thing, Josh, is if you looked at the last 4 seasons, but only considering if the best of 3 was a best of 1, eliminating any follow-up games and just taking the results of the first game, and then making that the season results, and then seeing what the difference is actually. Cool. Of course, there's going to be a big psychological difference between playing the first game in a best of 1, but it's like it might give us a better assessment of like what's going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's set aside the numbers then, and just kind of go. How do you feel? Do you feel like this season is seeing more good teams, or are we still kind of seeing the typical, really good top tier, like 1, maybe 2 teams, and then a middle tier, and then everybody else at the bottom?
I feel like it's reasonably competitive at the top. I feel like I feel like they're definitely. It's still at the end of the day, it's NA, and on the world stage, we haven't exactly proven ourselves. So you have to take that into account when you're kind of talking about this kind of stuff. But I feel like the general level of play of NALCS has been slowly kind of improving over the years. I feel like when there are those kind of teams that are kind of head and shoulders of everybody else, it kind of forces those other teams to slightly catch up and kind of figure out like what is it that we're doing wrong, what is it that they're doing well, how can we catch up to this. So I feel like the level has been slowly increasing. I just feel like the level of League of Legends play in general has been increasing, and I feel like that's kind of just natural. It hasn't been anything like special. It's just kind of like the natural progression of people getting better at the game the more time we spend playing it and thinking about it and stuff like that. And also we just import everybody.
That works too. I think this split is probably a little bit more competitive because there isn't a good team. Like I think, in spring 2016, Immortals was like, hey, we're going to dominate. And then in summer 2016, like I took over. And then the next year, in the spring at least, TSM still was kind of on form a little bit. And then I think that like Echo Fox was shaping up to maybe be like the Immortals or the TSM of this split, but then kind of fell short on that. I think Fnatic is like literally, head and shoulders above everybody else in EU outside of G2 right now, and that is really showing in terms of like the difference, of their end season results. Like you can see it in the numbers, right? But you can really see it in terms of the presence on the map. And I just don't think that there is a team like that. I think that like all the good teams got fragmented out, right?
Yeah.
So Cloud9 could have been that if they came in with a really veteran roster, maybe like a world's caliber roster, and I don't know. I think that the risk of not being relegated has probably saved people from let people build these kind of like, oh, well, we have a full year to build a world's roster instead of like 3 months to build to not losing roster. So I don't know.
All right. So was Echo Fox's sub roster the right call in week 9? And so setting aside any kind of internal team dynamic type stuff. I think I remember reading their coach saying that the two players wanted to take a bit of a break, or he was kind of resting them to get them ready for playoffs.
Who were the two players he subbed out?
Phoenix and Adrian.
Yeah.
Phoenix and Adrian? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm in general okay with it. The problem I have with it is at the end of everything, they now are going to have to play against TSM most likely, which I would have kept those players in to try and avoid TSM. Like that's pretty much my only kind of qualm I have with it is like, we're going to have to play TSM now. That's not going to be fun. I would have rather just kind of had an easier path to finals, but we'll figure it out. I don't know. I feel like it's good experience. I feel like Damonte played pretty darn well. I was actually pretty impressed with his play. I thought it was not bad. Papa Chow wasn't bad or anything. I was a little bit worried because it looked like based on the draft they were having to like get him Alistair, and so that kind of makes me worried. Where it's like, oh, is that all that you can play at this level without like feeding or anything? So I'm a little worried about that type of stuff. And then also just in general, I'm kind of like, it really kind of I don't know behind the scenes, so I don't know how much these guys are they overworked. Do they really need this break? But I feel kind of like this is like kind of practice time you have to ramp up for the playoffs. I feel like we should be using our main roster to just get more practice time. But like I said, I don't know the actual dynamics behind the team there, so I'm not sure if this was like, no, we need to rest these guys, they're burning out, or if they're just like, let's get Damonte some stage time. But overall, like I said, the way it all ends up, we have to face TSM now, and so overall, hindsight's 2020. Looking back, I'm like, no, just don't face TSM, just win one game, please. So I have to say it was a bad idea overall at the end of things, but in the moment, I would have been fine with it.
I think that from just like a competitor perspective, it's irrelevant where you go out in a single elimination tournament. The only thing that matters is like whether or not you win. So so like the mindset of like, oh, I wish that we could have gotten second instead of fourth is kind of like pointless, because like you said, in a single elimination tournament, you can't differentiate like when you're going to play the finalist. So you could go out in the first round and be the second best team, right? Like single elimination tournaments, like the playoffs, are not meant to kind of sort team strength, right? So from a competitive perspective, like the competitor's perspective, they don't care who they play. When they play them, it's either you win everything or you lose. There's nothing else, right? However, from a strategic perspective of like we want to go to Worlds, like there are points, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Huni has been really great at missing out on finals and points and putting Immortals in danger of like not making it to Worlds. I think, yeah. So that's kind of a scary situation. If I was Echo Fox, I would not want to go to Worlds after a split like I just had. I would want to like secure that kind of like top ranking in points so that I could try to get there the next split. Now, as far as like the preparation and practice for finals, they know they're going to have a bye, so there's a 2-week window, and the meta is going to shift drastically in 2 weeks of scrims, and we're going to have on-stage matches beforehand. Yep. So it's going to be almost completely irrelevant what was played like last weekend and what people practice. So I don't think that on-stage practice matters all that much. And I'm really glad to see that they got some time on stage. I think that that's really cool that people can actually do that now. I think this is the first time that a team has been willing to say, we will take a loss for you to make a statement or for you to get better or for you to practice. Like this is literally, I think, the first time almost in North American LCS history that a team has consciously decided that. So I think that's like a historic moment, and I think it's pretty cool. And I think it only comes because they're competitive. No. What do I want to say? How do I say this? I think this only comes because their culture, the Echo Fox culture, is very much like a sports team. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of like a second string sub in is very real and probably has been discussed before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a very nice benefit of franchising. And I have to say, with the split, coming towards the end, I'm becoming more and more okay with the decision to franchise, even if it means I'm not going to get a LCS team. That's something like I hadn't put down, but I'm kind of curious on you guys' thoughts. I've always thought it'd be really cool, especially now since teams are going to be carrying, the bigger rosters and they've got the academy teams. It'd be really cool if you could flex your people who are going to be playing in that you get to go through drafts, figure out what champions you're going to play, and then declare who is actually going to come in and play them. Because that would give you such a wider range.
For some reason, Riot doesn't want to actually make subs. They just want to increase player health a little bit, but they don't actually want to make the game strategically more subbable. I don't know, like that. Yeah, that would be logically how it should be, obviously, but I don't know.
I imagine in the beginning
they should have made that change 2 years ago, in my opinion.
Yeah. I imagine in the beginning it was probably partly just because the logistics of, okay, we drafted this champion, now we want this other person to play, like getting them in there.
It's for the viewers,
and all that.
It's the same reason they went best of one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I don't know, especially since they've got the whatever they call the time warp tool. Can't you build something custom for the tournament?
Yeah. So Chronobake and all that crap. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it's so built around there. At the end of the day, they need to make money off of people watching it. So I can totally understand how they would kind of sacrifice a little bit of kind of like, well, this will make the game better this is going to allow us to actually produce this easier, and then in turn just kind of actually sustain this for longer. So I can understand that, but yeah, it would be awesome if we could do that and have people actually subbing in more regularly, as opposed to just like, oh, we're playing our sub today, and we've made the decision. There it is. You can actually pull people in and out, and especially like in a best of 5 series, I think that would be incredible to be able to actually do that without letting everybody know this is the person we're starting. Mm-hmm. That's it. It would make those rosters that are more than a 5-man roster extremely impactful, and it could be cool to see. But
they can. correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought they can swap in subs.
They can, but
games,
it's like
they have to declare it like 5 minutes before you start, right? And I saw something too, like something the commentators were talking about is that maybe Echofox is trying to figure out which sub they want to take, because apparently you're only allowed to take one sub into playoffs, which again, why? I mean, and again, maybe this is all just kind of growing pains, and once we have a season or two of franchising kind of under everybody's belt, and people have kind of gotten used to the system, and really take advantage of the stability that it brings. Riot, please. Okay, you've knocked out so many other things. Here's something new for you to.
I think they're only going to be able to do that when the finances of the org structure leaves it so that it's a level playing field. Otherwise, a more moneyed team would have a massive advantage. And on top of that, Riot is really about cross-regional, competitive. Like they want to make sure that if they implement something in one region, that it's there in the other region as well. And so I don't see them ever doing anything like this ever. Like
really,
just to be clear.
Oh.
Yeah, because they would have to launch it across the entire globe, so every region would have to have massive player density and 10-man rosters and money. I think like the next esport will have it, but I don't think that if Riot survives to be the tier 1 esport that is like more like soccer or NBA, where there's like where like every team that comes in at the pro level is like going to be pulling in millions of revenue, then that makes sense. But like right now, a lot of the power rests with the publishers and the players, and that's continuing and actually increasing. Like the power differential between the publishers and the players is actually like it used to be that there were 3 kind of more equal parties, and now the orgs, I think, are at least dropping away even more. So I don't see that is a future path in esport, a very successful one. To believe that the orgs are going to be large enough and kind of like moneyed enough to pull that off globally, so that Riot would implement a change like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
they're also really concerned with making the player experience that you see the same one that you have.
That's true. That's
so
a really good point.
They want it to mimic a stage and like what you see in play.
Yeah, I mean, because at least with North America and the EU, that revenue sharing when the BAMTech deal or whatever it is comes through, like that's gonna be pretty big, if I remember correctly. It was over 100 million. I want to say I don't think it was 500 million, maybe 250, 350 million. So I mean, I feel like there's going to be the money and the infrastructure on the team side, at least for North America and EU. And I do see what you're saying with spreading it throughout the regions. But very strong point with, yes, they absolutely always try to make sure that LCS mimics as closely as possible regular game. Because at the end of the day, it's just an advertising thing.
I was just about to say, LCS is really just a big ad for their game, pretty much. So, I mean, obviously, it's more into it. It
was horrible that at first that's what they saw it as. They saw it as a content marketing scheme, so much so that they didn't even realize that it could be its own monetization vector itself. So now it has its own monetization vector, right? Because they had to go and hire BAMTech because they straight up did not even bother to build their marketing division within their esports marketing division within Riot. So like I was watching the LinkedIn of the people who were working in the esports sector and their job recruitment, and like I was just watching as 2015 rolled around, I think that their marketing division went from like their sales. So I'm talking about people who would handle clients who might sponsor the LCS, right? Or people who would sell packages of sponsorships to them, like dropped from 3 to 1, and like for example, BAMTech has like 72, I think, operators for selling and activating sponsorships. Right? So, like case handlers. So, like, we're talking about like a massive infrastructural shift here, which is why we have the State Farm analyst desk now, because State Farm needs that kind of infrastructure to put that kind of deal together. And yeah, Riot just had no idea how to do it, and they no idea why they should do it. So,
good points. Well, that was a nice little sidetrack. But I mean, it worked out because the Echo Fox question was the last one I had. So if there's any
questions from chat,
we answered a few. Well, then, do you have?
I'll pull in questions from my chat as well.
Okay.
If anybody has.
Do you have you played your ranked games yet?
No.
No.
Dude, if I even have a spare moment to play, which I have a fourth child that was due last week and who's coming any moment, so that's not super likely. But if I even had a moment to spare, I would be playing Fortnite, not League of Legends.
Fortnite.
Sorry.
I've not tried that. I've seen it everywhere, but I'm not.
Yeah, reasonably popular game right now.
Let's see. I do. So there was a comment. I don't think that Team Liquid's Fortitude is going to hold.
Yeah, that's a big fear, but I think it is because this isn't the same Team Liquid as before. They don't have Piglet anymore.
Well, yeah, absolutely. In regards to Fortitude, I completely agree. Do you think that as a team they've developed the cohesiveness? And this is kind of for Weldon because Kevin and I talked about it a little bit before. Like, do you think they've developed the cohesiveness needed to like really make a deep run? I mean, not just at NA, but potentially Worlds, or are they still just kind of relying on a fairly safe, generic strategy that really plays off?
Let me think about their roster. Smithy, who's their top laner again? Impact, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Phoenix and Olay are kind of like their liabilities in a way for the Worlds run. I think that Phoenix has really never proven him
for Liquid.
Yeah.
Liquid Pobelter's their mid.
Oh. Sorry, I'm thinking. Where is Phoenix playing now? Echo Fox.
Echo Fox. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that was my hesitation for that squad. All right, Liquid is Pobelter. Yeah. No, I think that they absolutely have the resilience now. So it's just Olay then, really. Who's questionable, but he went and got experience this year. Sorry, that would be last year, right? No.
Yeah.
So, no, I have no qualms about their consistency. I think that their team lacks a little bit of leadership if Doublelift is having a bad day, because I don't see Pobelter stepping up in game. I don't see Smithy stepping up in game the way you need. Like, you're looking for the Afro character, right? The one who's going to talk all the time, who's going to talk out of game, who's going to be like the spiritual leader for the team. Not spiritual leader, but you know what I mean. Like, who's going to set the tone for the squad, right? Like Impact clearly is going to do that because of the linguistic and cultural barriers in place. So like, I'm pretty sure that he's more of like a secondary actor in the team culture, and I'm pretty sure Olay is as well. So that leaves like Doublelift, Pobelter, and Xmithie, and we know in that triad, or at least I know in that triad, that Doublelift is going to be kind of like the more dominant culture setter or tone setter. So like, pretty much it's all on his shoulders. Like, whatever he sets as the, unless they have a very good coach who's like really, like more like me, like more like able to set an incredibly dominant team culture that like overpowers the players' kind of individual personalities, then that may be possible. But otherwise, it's basically going to be all on Peter, whether or not he can construct the kind of high performance environment that would succeed. One of my chat members, okay, she did not actually ask a question. She just shared her predictions: 3-1 TL over C9. Sorry, Josh. I had to share that with you because
it's okay.
TSM 3-0s, Siege Clutch Gaming, and then 100 Thieves 3-1s TL, and the TSM 5-game final looks like.
TSM 5-game final? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and at the end of the day, I want a good show, you know? I want a good 5 games for the finals and see some great League of Legends, you know? That's all I really want.
I was gonna say that's what I just want teams to play well. I just want good play. I just don't like being like, oh, here I am watching NA and it's a fiesta again. Here we go.
Yeah.
Like, I just want quality play.
Here's a good question right along that line. This one is from Sergeant Asker in my chat. What team do you think has the least mental resilience, or tilts the most easily in EU or in ALCS at the moment? Let's do pre-playoffs and in playoffs. So pre-playoffs.
Tilts the easiest.
I need to look at the rosters real quick again. EU LCS.
I mean, it'd probably have to go with, at least for NA, like C9 or Echo Fox, maybe at least for regular season.
I don't know. C9 like tilts though.
Well, and that's what's so tricky is like I don't know what's tilting and what's just like, oh, we had a bad game. Or, yeah, I'm not sure what specifically is them tilting. But yeah, I'd have to say C9 or Echo Fox, at least from just kind of first glance here, looking over the teams real quick.
I guess for me, I would choose Unicorns of Love and Golden Guardians. as the least mentally resilient teams.
Yeah, you.
And then when we enter playoffs, yeah, I would go with C9, I guess, in North America because of their like historic. They're now historic, like drop from second place to 5th, I think, and then in EU, I guess I have to go with E2. No, just kidding. Vitality. I have to go with Vitality.
Yeah,
I can get behind the Vitality pick for EU. I mean, yeah, I guess framing it not necessarily tilting, but mental resilience. I would more potentially agree with Cloud9. Though Echo Fox, I feel like when they had even like a slight stumble early game that caused a lot more trouble later on in games, that I would maybe argue would be a bit of a sign of that like mental resilience. But I mean, yeah, Cloud9 showed that too. So
yeah, I feel like I'd have to say Cloud9 because they like their mid game's just been really rough recently. Like even when they've been getting leads, they haven't been doing anything with them. So I feel like that would be the closest that I can think of to kind of aligning with what the question was there. Because I really feel like when they're doing well, they have the ability to turn that around in the opposite direction pretty regularly. At least it seems like in the past few weeks. So I feel like I have to be C9, and then maybe in EU, maybe like. And this is again, I don't know enough about EU, but maybe like Schalke, because when they get behind, they just never do anything. It's just like, oh, we lost early game, the game's over. There's no real like, there's no kind of like, let's turn this around. It's just like, all right, we're gonna slowly lose now. So I don't know. I'd probably have to say them, yeah. But again, like I don't know how these teams think or work or anything. This is such speculation on my part.
Yep. Rampant speculation. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
Awesome. Good question. Any other questions from either chats?
None here, except they're asking when I'm going to start my show.
All right.
I should probably take off and do that. I got to do my YouTube show for the day.
All right.
Let's see what else they're saying. Yeah, nothing else about casting. Or about the split itself.
Cool.
More about mental toughness.
I think that was a good note to end it on. If any Tracking the Pros viewers are more interested in hearing more about mental toughness, go watch Weldon do his show. Use his Mac program. He'll even give you a $5 code, I'm sure, at some point. And but yeah, go make your predictions, everybody, and we will see you all next week. Take care.